Thanks for joining, everybody. This is Bill Van Orsdel from BookFuel with today's Self-Publishing Wednesday webinar. And I feel honored, I feel lucky to have with me today Christine Van Zandt, and she's got a lot of interesting information for us, some of which we've captured in slides. Of course, today we're talking about why all writers who are serious about success should work with a professional editor. Some of you may have attended our webinar last week on this same topic. I think we're going to take a little different tack. We're going to cover some more territory today. I think you'll find it very valuable. Thanks for coming today. Christine, why don't you say hi, tell us a little bit about Write for Success, and just sort of get warmed up a little for us.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, Bill. Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here and everyone that's listening. Let me tell you a little bit about Write for Success. I founded it back in 2009. We currently have 4 different editors in locations including Los Angeles, San Francisco, Minneapolis. All of the editors here are published authors, and we all have advanced educational degrees. I'm in Los Angeles. And we're committed to quality. And we work with writers coming in, either self-publishing, freelance, agented, and we take your writing seriously. We can help you from creation to publication. So no matter what stage of the process you're in, we can help you out with different editing for your writing.
Christine, how did you get started in editing? Is that what you wanted to do, and when did you decide that's what you wanted to do?
Oh, I've always loved to write. I've been writing forever. I went to school for my master's in English, and I actually had a long career in human resources and labor relations for about 20 years. And I decided to take a different career path and switch up and try and do something that allowed me to work from home because I had a child. So I decided to go into editing back in 2009, and that's what led me here.
Fantastic.
And the world was changing at that point too. It seemed like a good place to be because I love working with books and writers. This is kind of an extension of workshopping and beta reading. Mm-hmm. And more and more people are self-publishing, so there's a real need for editors right now.
Now, can I tell the audience your secret?
What secret's that? I don't know. Sure,
the book you're working on.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So Christine was nice enough to share her first couple chapters of the book that she's writing because I happen to be a science fiction fan. It's a science fiction book, and it's great. I love it. And I'm looking forward to maybe getting a chance to read more if I continue to be a nice critique beta reader. Hey, before we get started, I want to remind everyone that I'm recording this for playback later. So I will, you should receive a link in about 24 hours via email to play this back in case you have to leave or you want to forward it to someone else. That's perfectly fine. Christine is going to email you a follow-up document. It might be these slides. It might be something more. I think Christine's talked about even an offer, but I'll let her decide when she sends that out. If you don't want to receive that email, just let me know. Throw it in the comments or the questions or send me an email, and that's okay. You don't have to receive it. And the only thing that's important today, checklist-wise or assumption-wise, is that you're thinking about engaging a professional editor, such as Christine. So I want to sort of did we miss anything, Christine, when you were giving us a little background about Write for Success?
Well, I'd kind of like to know where everyone is coming in. So I know you have a couple different polls, so maybe if you could throw a poll up to see what people are looking for.
That's a great idea. So let's just get a sense of where everybody is in their experience working with professional editors. If you just take a moment on the screen and to click on the yes or the no button, the radio button there up on your screen, and let us know, have you worked with a professional editor before? All right, we almost got everybody having voted. Maybe get one more vote out there. Christine, I can't remember. Do you get to vote? Does your screen allow you to vote?
No, it says don't.
Okay, got it.
But my answer would be yes.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. All right, great. I think we've given enough time. Let's close it and share it. And it looks like it's about 50-50. So
Okay.
half of the audience has worked with a professional editor and half has not. Okay, very interesting.
Okay,
So,
that's good to know. And I encourage people to ask questions. This is for you guys out there. So if I'm going in a direction that you're not interested in, just throw a question up there, and I'd be happy to answer anything throughout the webinar. So stop us at any time.
Absolutely.
And since we're trying to make this educational, I have a couple common mistakes that I see a lot that we were going to start out with. So if you want to go to the first slide on that one, there it is. So this is one I see quite often. The three different forms of, there's yay, yeah, and yay. The first one, YEA, you'll probably never use, I mean, unless you're in the PTA and taking minutes or something, but a lot of writers write it in. They write YEA when they really don't mean it. The only time you should use yay is when you mean for oral voting. And the little, you'll see throughout here that I use little things to try to help you remember. So for this one, try to remember that it rhymes with you vote yay or nay at the PTA. So this is YEA. So this one you should probably never use unless you are, like I said, taking minutes for a meeting or something along those lines. The other two I see used often and used incorrectly. There's yeah, and then there's the yay. And if you use it, they both mean obviously a yes kind of a thing, but if you use them the wrong way, you're conveying the wrong kind of mood. You'll see this a lot in dialogue. You want to make sure that yeah and yay are spelled correctly. So I have the one example with the Joan Jett song, like listen to the, I wonder if I can play that or not. Normally I play it, but let me see. Let me play with that for a minute and see.
You should just sing it. You should just sing it.
That is not one of my talents. Let me see if I can do this or not. Oh yeah, whoa.
Yeah, hard to hear that.
Too terrible on your end, kind of, yeah. So it's the yeah, oh yeah. And you can really hear the H in that. And I want people to think of that when the yeah sound has the H, the yeah, oh yeah. So it's not a yay. Yay, look at the way I have it written on the slide. It has the arms raised enthusiasm, yay. So when people are using this in dialogue, so many times they reverse it, and you'll have someone saying, yeah, I don't really want to do that. And the writer writes yay, so when you're really reading it, it's yay, I don't really want to do that. So the two just don't go hand in hand. So these ones are really important to distinguish. And if you, like I said, try to look at the different samples I've used for you here, hopefully it'll help you remember. And don't use the first one, the yay or nay with the PTA. The yeah or yeah, you'll use that a lot. Like, yeah, my example is yeah, I'll take out the garbage later. And then with the yay, as the Y's on both ends. And that one is yay, we won first place. So try and distinguish between those when you're writing, because it does make a big difference.
Yeah. Now, Christine, a question for you. When you take on a new client, either for your own editing or a member of your team, do you send them, I don't know, I'll take a guess. You send them a 5-page, hey, here are the most common mistakes that are really easy for you to fix, and you don't want to pay me to fix them, so why don't you try to clean these up and then send it to me? Do you do anything like that, or you just say, all right, send me your first 10 pages, I'll give you back a sample edit? How do you do client intake?
I'll do that with formatting quite a bit, because people will send it to me in just kind of a real messy format. And I'll say, okay, well, I can format it for you, but formatting is time-consuming, and it's pretty basic if I tell you what the current requirements. And formatting, just like a lot of this stuff with grammar, every year there's different things. You know, right now, what the formatting should be for a short story or for a novel, I have it typed up, and I can refer someone to it in the Writer's Digest 2014 guide. So I'll say, this is what it should be, double space, this is where you put your name on the first page, if you have an agent. So I will send that to someone and say, okay, if you want to go through and fix your formatting, then, you can save a lot of hours of editing time, because editing time is basically billed hourly. Same type of thing, like you're saying, if it is some kind of a mistake that I see throughout, someone's using the wrong kind of quotation marks, if I can tell them, okay, this is what you're doing wrong, do you want to fix it? You want me to fix it? Yes, we do give writers that option.
And we've got a question from, I think, I'm so sorry if I'm going to do this name wrong, but it's from Cayenne, and she says, how do you know when you should follow all of an editor's advice or not?
Well, I'd say people probably never follow all of an editor's advice. I mean, everyone has a different opinion on things. When you're, hopefully you're workshopping, I recommend that everyone workshop their pieces with, other writers.
Now, what does that mean? Be more specific with a workshop. Do you mean like a critique group, or is that something else?
Yeah, no, like a critique group. I really encourage people to join meetup groups or whatever they have in their area through different organizations. Like here in Los Angeles, we have the Greater Los Angeles Writing Society, GLAS, and they have some really nice critique groups where you get together on a regular basis and you workshop your piece or critique your piece. And with that kind of thing, once you show your piece to 5 different people, you can kind of start to get a feel for it. Okay, people think the opening has a problem here. A couple people commented on that. But then if you have the one person that says, well, I don't like this thing on page 3, but they're the only one, then you probably take it with a grain of salt and either accept it or don't accept it. With writers that I work with as an editor, I will leave a lot of comments, and I know some of the comments, people will take, and some of them they won't take. Some of them are just personal to me. Someone is quoting. I get a lot of people using lyrics. It's like, oh, you're referencing this song, but I don't really think, for me, it doesn't really work for the mood you're trying to set. But that's me. You're saying in this scene the character's playing this music in the background. Take it or leave it. I think people will take some of what, hopefully most of what an editor says, because they're providing you with the grammatical and the style. But just on the commentary, it'll be a crapshoot. Some of it they'll accept, and some of them they'll take and make their own decisions.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about peak, peak, peak.
Peak, peak, peak. Yeah, this one I see incorrectly.
Misspelled. Oops. Yeah, I'll fix that. Well,
Same type
didn't mean to do that. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm still stuffed up. If you hear me breathing heavy, it's just because I've got a cold. So, on peak, the one you see the least frequently is my first example, and I've got the eyes in different fonts and in red so you can see it. Someone piqued your interest. Yeah, writers will use that, but we don't see it as much. But still, you should know which one that is. That's the one that's spelled the strange way, P-I-Q-U-E. So it's usually used to pique someone's interest, which I want you to remember, the pique with interest, since those both have the I in them. The other two that you use more frequently and that are used incorrectly, and they have totally different meanings, so it's not like yay and yeah. Pique, so the first one is I had my eyes closed, but I really wanted to peek. So think of the E's in that one. When you have your eyes closed, the two E's in there, you really want to peek. That one is the two E's. And the other one is the mountain peaks. So the Alps have many mountain peaks. So that one is spelled with an A. So think of the shape of a mountain to help you remember that one. So when you reach the peak of something, it's very different than the peak with the two E's.
Now, when you're working with an author, are you using Microsoft Word and sending them back? You're turning on track changes and sending them back, or do you do it a different way? Do you write and then scan a PDF and send it back? How do you do it?
I do track changes. We basically, with everything we do a hard copy first. So I go through people's work twice. I do the hard copy where I go through and read it from the beginning to end, and I'm usually taking notes for myself the whole time I'm reading it. And then I go through and I edit it electronically, which we call an e-edit, in Microsoft Word, and I will transfer those changes over, and then I will type up the comments in the column, and then they receive that back as a file.
Yeah, and just out of curiosity, because I know, because I do this as well, I add comments to documents for my team when I'm giving my input. I know that takes a lot of time. What are you commenting on when you're running through an edit for someone? What kind of comments are you giving?
Oh God, every book is so different. With the opening, I'm very critical. The first sentence, the first paragraph, the first couple pages, the first 25 pages. I want to see. I comment on that a lot. I want to see who we're talking about. Can I see your protagonist? Are you telling us in the beginning that this is a period piece, or I don't find out till page 50 all of a sudden that we're set in a different, in the future or in the past or something. I'll put comments like that, like, show me who she is, or more of a description, or if things are awkward, I'll say this sentence doesn't work, or I'll refer back. People that are trying to learn, some people just kind of want me to fix the edit, fix their manuscript with an editing, while others really want to learn. And those people I'm trying to teach, I will give more commentary, like with the peak and the peak. I'll try and give them some hints in the margin to tell them, or I'll refer them back to, we use the Chicago Manual of Style. That's our Bible. That is a dictionary. I'll say the Chicago Manual of Style says this. If I know someone has that book, I'll even reference the section of it sometimes, so they can go and look at it as well to see why I made that change. So for some people, I'll put a lot more information as to why I'm making the change, if they're the kind of person I'm working with for a long term and they want to learn as they go along. Because I think it helps for them to learn as they go along. That way, A, they learn, and B, in the future, it's less editing time with someone spent changing their mistakes versus working on the developmental portion of the manuscript.
Now, Kyle made a comment here, I think it was about this slide. He says, we're talking about homonyms here. Another example he offered was donned and donned, which is D-A-W-N-E-D, D-O-N-N-E-D. Is that right? Is this an example of a homonym type error, or is that something different?
I think it could be it could be either. We've got people, and that's one of the things that spell check won't catch. You know, if you use the correct word but you use it incorrectly,
Right.
that's something you can run your spell check till the end of the till the end of time, but it's not going to pick it up. So yes, it's not misspelled. So.
Yeah. Now you made a comment. I want to just ask the attendees real quick. Oops, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I want to press this launch button. And so this is the question of, do you want your editor, would you want Christine or whoever you're working with as an editor to just correct your mistakes and tell you how to do it right? Or do you want to really learn from this edit so that, on the next book or later on in this book or in the next chapter? Give me a sense, if you would, by voting. Click one of those radio buttons for me and tell me which you prefer. We've got about 2/3 of the folks have voted now. If anyone else wants to throw a vote in, I'll leave it open for 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, here we go. So let's see. It looks like pretty much everybody says, I'd like to learn while I'm going through this. Do you find that's true, Christine, great, with most of the authors that you work with?
Most of them, yeah. Some people don't. Some people say, I don't care, just fix it. I don't want to learn.
Yeah, or I'm tired of looking at it. I don't want to do any more writing. I just want to accept all your changes and delete all your comments and move forward.
Yeah, it depends on who we're working with and what their goal is. That's why it's important that we know what people are working toward. I've got some people that are writing something for their family. They're going to present it to them for Christmas. It's a generational story, the history, the immigration, that kind of thing. And yeah, they don't really want to learn from, learn these kind of things with what's a homonym and whatever. Just fix it for me so that there's no mistakes and print it up. And that's probably going to be it. They're not going to start a career as a writer. But most people out there are writing, and they're writing and writing. So, if you keep using peak instead of peak, when interchanging things that are homonyms or using the wrong, tenses here. Some people switch back and forth between tenses, and that's another thing I'll point out. You're in present tense, and now you're in past tense. So, yeah, everyone has their own things. Every writer has their own little hang-ups, and once you learn them, you can find them much easier.
Okay, now we're on another common mistake, the differences between suspension points, ellipsis, and em dash, and when you use which one.
Yes, these ones, again, they're very important, and they're used frequently, a lot in dialogues. Most people that are writing are using dialogue. There's some writing, obviously, that doesn't, but almost everyone has it. So the ellipsis is, for a while, everyone was referring to the dots as ellipsis, but it's kind of switched. So now that there is the ellipsis and the suspension point, that's the more modern way of thinking of it. The ellipsis is basically an omission of words. So the example I have on the slide is the child proudly recited her alphabet A, B, and then dot, 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 X, Y, Z, because you're not going to fill it all in. So when you're quoting from something or when you're just cutting something out, it's the dot, dot, dot in the middle. And the correct way of doing it, Chicago Manual of Style, is 7 keystrokes. It's space, dot, space, dot, space, dot, space, dot, space. But currently, some people for online writing, they're using a compressed one, which you can do that with a fast key. That's Control-Alt period, and it basically takes out the spaces in the middle. So it's a space, and then the 3 dots are next to each other, and then another space. And with any of these marks, whenever you're doing it, the last space is removed if you have a punctuation mark. Like if you look at the example with the A and the B and the Y and the Z, you'll see that the last space is removed and there's a comma there instead. So what I see more of, though, in writing is the suspension point. So basically, the suspension point is when you're suggesting faltering or fragmented speech, and this is what you see most of the time in dialogue. So my example here is, but said Mary. So she's got pauses in there. So that's what a lot of people are using in dialogue.
Yep. And it looks like when I was reformatting the slides, I think I moved somehow I must have moved this quote to the end of this line, and it should have been after the comma.
After the comma, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's okay.
Then the em dash.
I see that too. And the em dash, people may not even know what this is called, but you use it a lot. It's kind of like a double dash, and you can set your computer to just put it in. So if you type dash dash, it'll change over to this elongated dash. And this is very popular, and people use it a lot. You can use it to amplify an element. So the example I have here is, will you, can you meet our deadline, I asked. And then the response is, well, if you give me another, but then the person is cut off. So it says he began, but Susie cut him off. So you see that a lot where there's dialogue and someone cuts them off. So you shouldn't use the suspension points here because the suspension points like are suspending something. So think of slowly with the suspension points versus the M dash, which is that it chops it off. So
yeah,
those are two important ones to know.
I have a terrible personal writing habit. I use parentheses a lot, and I can't imagine that I could use those anywhere in a fiction book that it would make sense. And maybe I should use M dashes instead. I don't know.
Yeah, no, parentheses are useful. I mean, I'm working on a book right now that has a lot of parentheses, and it's kind of when you're changing direction a little bit in the middle of something, I would set that off with parentheses.
Okay.
I have use for that.
Yeah, Kyle made a comment. He said, we should be programming these computers so that once we discover a mistake, we shouldn't do it again.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Exactly. I'd love to have a one mistake correction and have that fixed each time. Okay. Advice for getting your book published. So you work with a lot of authors who come to you and they want editing before they try to get an agent or even a publisher interested in their book.
Yes. The question I hear the most probably is this any good, in referring to their manuscript, and how can I make money at this? Kind of the two go hand in hand. Is this good enough for me to sell, and how can I sell it to make money? And maybe you don't really think of an editor in that capacity, but that's a lot of what we do. We don't want to spend a year working with you and then find out down the road, oh, well, you really are trying to send this to the Alfred Hitchcock magazine and their requirements or this, that, and the other, and we're totally off base. So I want to know from the outset what you're trying to do with this thing. Are you trying to go for traditional publication? Are you trying to self-publish it? Do you have a specific target? Some people are writing for calls, like they'll see something up, because we work with short stories quite a lot too. And someone will write for something, and I'll say, send me what you're writing for. What are the parameters there? They want 3,000 to 5,000 words. And what is the theme, so we kind of know what we're gauging it toward. But with a book, which I think a lot of people probably listening in are working on books, I want people to think like a small business owner. This is your product. You're putting something out, and you want to put out something that's a quality product. I've had a couple people that I'm working with, sorry we have helicopters outside, say that, well, it's my first book. I don't really care if it's that great, but I don't want people to think that way, because think of yourself as a consumer. If you go out and you buy something for the first time, we have a person that we're working with that writes health kind of books, and this is the example I gave to him. So if you are out there and you buy tennis shoes for the first time, and it's a new brand, and they're hot off the press, whatever, and they're not really that great, you're not going to buy the next model. And that's the same kind of thing with a book. So the first book you put out, you should make it the best book you can make it, because you're trying to build your audience. So once they buy that book, they'll say, hey, I love this book by Joe Smith, and he just wrote another one, so I'll buy the next one. But if you kind of burn them with the first one, even though you'd think, oh, this is my first book, it doesn't have to be that great, you want it to be as good as it can be so that you can start building your readership, because that is your product. And everything you put out there is going to build on that.
I need to go. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I need to go back one slide. I had a couple questions, and I missed them. The first one is, Anne asks, how long did it take to earn editorial degree? And do you know of a good online school? If I'm going to be doing this as a profession, maybe I want to learn how to be an editor.
Well, you don't have to have a degree to be an editor. You can, when you're looking at editors, I mean, anyone can hang up their shingle and say, I'm an editor. So it's not like becoming a doctor or whatever. There's not a credential for it. I have a master's in English. Everyone has some kind of a different degree. So you want to, when you're researching editors, see what they have, see what their background is. Maybe you want someone who's a writer, maybe you don't. Some people have different vibes of what they want from their editor.
Kyle's got a question for us. I think this is related to the M dash. He says, can we use that? Can we use that can we use it in place of a colon?
No, not really. A colon, usually you have a list of things afterward. So,
okay.
Colon, so not
All right, great. And then Cayenne's got a question down here on, I think this is, she says, if trailing off a sentence in dialogue with an ellipse, you need 4, 1 for a period. Do you agree? think that's...
Oh, like if there's a period at the end?
Yeah, would that
Like
be this? Would it be Mary, or would that have been...
No, I don't have an example like that.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, I think she's saying with the final punctuation mark. Yeah, so the final punctuation mark goes in. So yeah, in mine I have the comma. So
Okay. All right.
I think
Great.
the answer would be yes if you're saying what I agree.
All right. Think like a small business. Anything else you want to cover here? Platform?
Just that there's so many books being published. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if people realize this. Last year, there were about 11,000 books published every day. So you need to think about your book in that context. That is so many books being published. Since it's great. I mean, people can publish a book. You can go out there and just publish a book, right away, at no cost really to you, except for the money you invested to write it or the time, that you spent writing it, as opposed to doing other things. But how are you going to be discovered, and how are people going to, buy that book? So there's actually more to it. Think about how small you are in this big world of books. I would be interested to see the next numbers for 2014 because it just keeps skyrocketing. There were about 4 million books published in 2013, and 2014 is going to be even more than that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was kicking myself the other morning because I realized that I should have been tracking the total number of books in the Kindle store for the last 3 years, but I haven't, because that's probably a pretty good proxy of competition. Okay, moving on to some common questions that you get from writers. What reference books do you recommend that they keep on their desk?
My reference books at hand, I use the Chicago Manual of Style, and I use the dictionary that kind of goes hand in hand with that one, which is the Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary. And I'm very careful to get the most current editions because things change. I mean, words change. Online has changed over the past couple of years. It used to be online, 2 words, and then it went on dash line, and now it's online, all one word altogether. So I mean, that's why if you're reading a book that's a couple years old and something seems like it may be misspelled, maybe that was the current spelling at the time. And I also use the Bedford Handbook, which is similar to the Chicago Manual of Style. It's smaller, it's a little more user-friendly, but that's the kind of thing when you're looking up, if I'm doing a book title, is that italics or is it quotes? There's a lot of question, I think, between italics and quote when people are writing, a song title, the name of a picture, is that italics, So those types of things are in both the Chicago Manual of Style and the Bedford Handbook, and then the dictionary, obviously, just to look things up.
Got it. How long should my book be?
Yeah, that's a question we get a lot of, but some people never even think about that one, so that one kind of goes to both ends of the spectrum. If you're looking to publish it, especially traditional publication, there are guidelines for genres. If you write a 200,000-word memoir, it's a little bit too long. It's a lot too long, actually.
Yeah.
You're looking at more like 80,000 words. And pages don't really count because you can have a 500-page book, that has quite a different word length than, something that has a lot of dialogue. It just, we go by word count. And if you're looking to publish certain areas, there are specific word counts. We have a lot of people that are writing romance. It's a very popular genre. And Harlequin is one of the big deals out there. And they are very specific. If you're doing a contemporary romance, it's got to be like 70 to 80,000 words. They have categories within romance, and all of them have specific word lengths. So if you're writing, you need to know that when you go into it, or you need to know that at some point of the game.
Yeah.
If you want to sell this to Harlequin, you need to fit into this category, with your word length. So if you've got twice that, you need to do something about it, or if you've got half that, you need to do something about it. You need to know what it is, what are the word length recommendations for your genre.
Okay, Cheyenne's... Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, if you self-publish, you can do whatever, but again, you probably want to use those as reference. Go ahead.
Yeah, at least know the rule before you decide to break it and why you're breaking it. Okay, so Cheyenne's got a question for us. I'm actually going to break her question into 2 parts. She says, her question is essentially this: does the dictionary that you reference, I think that's the Merriam-Webster's, include the year of the word creation for writing historical novels? So now, actually, I've got 3 questions. My first question is, when I'm writing historical novels and I'm trying to get, and maybe one of my goals as a writer is I want to get dialogue to be period accurate. Do people do that? Is that good? Is that an artist's decision? What does the market expect? Question number 1. Question number 2, I think Cheyenne may also be asking about anachronistic words or concepts and how I want to avoid them and how a dictionary might help me avoid them. And then, of course, number 3 is there a resource out there that tracks this, that even tells you that, there was on-line, on-line, and then online. But, of course, now if I'm writing a historical novel, maybe I care about the 1920s or the 1820s or the 1750s. So that's a big question.
Yeah. Let me see, where can I start? Okay, well, I've got my dictionary in front of me, and it actually does have some years in there, and it looks like most of them have a year in there. So let me grab something here.
And while you're looking at that, Cheyenne threw in a clarification. She says, for example, lost her memory versus amnesia.
Yeah, no, gosh, there are so many references out there. I'm looking at my library right now.
I can think of another one, hysterical versus hysterical.
Yeah.
It means something. One word changes its meaning over time, so using it might not be you're not using it the right way if you use the way we use it today, if you're trying to put it into a period piece.
Yeah. Yeah, so the current dictionary does give some dates, so you have an idea of when that word came into existence. I'm in the H's right now, honeydew 1577, honey eater 1822, so there is some, so I mean, if you're writing whatever, if you're writing something that was in the 1900s, you don't want to, you know which way to go. For what it sounds like she's writing a period piece. So for that kind of thing, I think one of my best recommendations would be to get books that were written then. So if you're writing turn of the century, read someone that was writing at that time and see how they were saying things. I think that's a really good source for someone who's doing a period piece. I don't know what time period she's looking at, but I think that's one of the best ways you can go. There's not really an all-inclusive answer for what she's looking for. I mean, if I do know the exact time period, you might be able to find like an Old English or whatever. You might be able to find something that fits a little closer, but yeah, I mean, English is so huge.
Yeah, Cheyenne says she likes that idea a lot, getting a book actually written during the period, maybe a book that was set in its period, written during the period. So a book back then that was set in a contemporary setting of the 1920s or whatever. Yeah, it's funny. I'm a huge fan, of course, of science fiction, and when I read a book today where the internet or the net or the interwebs or whatever you want to call it these days isn't mentioned, and people whip out phone books or, wow, it's sort of like, and it's sort of the book. I lose interest in the book. Because the author couldn't foresee even just 10 years or 20 years into the future to imagine this worldwide global network. Okay, next, what can I do prior to seeking professional editing or professional ALS editing? Either one of those would be fine.
Yeah, we have some whatever conversion issues.
Yep.
Okay, so write the best book possible. I mean, that's the first thing you can do. Write what's in your heart. Write what you love. Write it. And then workshop it, or as Bill uses the word, critique it. Go on a regular basis, and workshopping is a give and take, so you need to expect to reciprocate. And reciprocating with people is actually good. You learn how to critique other people's work, and you'll see how people critique your work. It's a very valuable experience. I say attend conferences, educate yourself any way you can. Read. I don't think I have that on here, but yeah, I mean, everyone should read, especially with whatever you're writing. Read in that genre. See what's popular right now. See what's selling. See what's out there. Join different organizations. Almost every genre has its specific little thing where you can. I got the romance writers listed and the children's book writers, but there's also area-based ones. Like here in Los Angeles, we have the Greater Los Angeles Writers Society. Or if you're the Independent Book Publisher Association for people that are self-publishing. So you can learn a lot. I mean, it takes a lot of your time. At some point, you always have to ask yourself, how much time do I want to spend doing this versus how much time do I want to spend writing? Because, time is valuable to most everyone, so it's a trade-off. But you should split your time and at least get some of that in.
Now, Lynn's got a question for us. She says, I write about the creation of a new society, and I occasionally come up with new groups and categories. Is it all right to create my own grammar rules for them? For example, I have a group of outbounders, and I always capitalize and hyphenate. So what she's got here is capital O-U-T dash small bounders, out dash bounders led with a capital O. So you want me to repeat that question? from Lynn?
No, I think I've got it. Yeah, no, I think when we're talking about a sci-fi, speculative fiction, fantasy kind of thing, yeah, no, if you're making up your own world, you can make up your own world. Just be consistent with it. So if that's how you're doing it, and that's how you're spelling it, and that's how you're punctuating things, that's fine. You can make it up. Just be consistent with it. If that's how you're going to be spelling it or punctuating something.
Yeah, I think I remember reading Orson Scott Card's got a book on writing characters in science fiction and so on and so forth, and I think one of his rules is, but I don't know if I agree with it, his rules is, or it might have been Stephen King on writing. The rule was, if it's a telephone, don't make up a new name for it. Just call it a telephone. If it's a cell phone,
Yeah.
if it's a whatever, just stick with the word rather than having to make up a new one. If it's a horse, it's a horse. Even if it's on another planet, call it a horse. But I could think of lots of great exceptions to that. Reginald's got a question for us. Is there a problem with using certain tenses in certain genres or at all? So are there genres where there are some tense boundaries?
No. No, not really. I don't think so. For a while, gosh, back in the day, I guess people were talking about point of views and tenses, and a lot of things were written in the past tense. But now you see a lot of books written in present tense, and people don't even blink an eye with that. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there is. I think for a while, maybe this is what he's getting at. Literary fiction was more of a past tense kind of thing, but now you can do whatever you want with it. Just don't flip around too much unless you can make it work. If you're doing flashbacks or whatever, just do it correctly so that people know where they are. But no, I don't think there is.
Got it. Okay, so give me a rundown on. I agree. I need an editor. What do I need to do? How do I do this smartly and not stupidly? How do I avoid making a mistake on my first try? What's the process to find and retain an editor?
I ask everyone to look at 3 to 5 editors just so they kind of have at least, some people want to look at more than that, but it depends on what your tolerance is, because at some point you get kind of overwhelmed if you're looking at too many people. Mm-hmm. But think about what you're looking for, and it's basically finding a person that's a match for you, because you are working with this person. Most of our people are long-term. Most of our writers are writing more than one thing, or they're working on the same thing for a long period of time, so you will be going back and forth with this person if you're working with a freelance editor. And there are other services. I always throw CreateSpace out there because they're huge, and everyone works with Amazon CreateSpace at some point sooner or later. They have an editing service, and it's a whole kind of different thing. You put your book out there, you get it back. There's not the go back and forth with the person. It's like with me, people are emailing me, asking me things. I'll email them and ask them something while I'm reading it. So it's kind of a one-time transaction deal when you work with something like that, versus with a freelance editor where you have more of an ongoing relationship.
I'm just going to interject there with a bothersome question or a secret question. It's a two-part question. Have you worked for CreateSpace as a supplying editor? And if you had, could you tell us?
No, I have not worked for CreateSpace as an editor.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know if you work for them. I don't know if you're allowed to say if you're working for them, but no.
I've talked to editors that I could swear have told me that they were the editor behind the CreateSpace project. But anyway, sorry, interrupted.
I've spoken with people that have worked there, and yeah, I think they kind of tend to churn through people because the pay rate isn't that great, and they get a lot of people fresh out of school or whatever that are working to set up their business. Then they kind of work for a while, and you get CreateSpace sounds like they stand behind their product. Like if you have a problem, they'll keep working with you. But if you use them a couple times, you're going to get probably a different editor each time. You can request for someone, but you don't get the attention, the relationship kind of thing like you do with working with a freelance person.
Okay, so you got to look at 3 or 4 editors, 2 or 3 editors, find a good fit, understand that you're going to be communicating with your editor. What else?
So there's the sample edit. So it's like if you send something to an editor and it sounds like they're interested in it. It's such a two-way relationship. Right now there is a lot of work coming to editors, so they may not be able to take it on just because they don't have the time for it, or it may not fall into their interest categories. We have people here at Write for Success that do kind of most things, but there's some categories we don't cover. We've got poetry, we've got this, we've got that, screenplay. But, we'll get something every once in a while that I'll say, no, that's just not really a fit for the people we have here, and, I'll recommend a different editor, or I'll, say something, or we just don't have the time for it. So there's the sample edit. So if it sounds like something we're interested in, yes, sci-fi, whatever, YA, it's a category we love to edit in, send us a sample. So we ask for the opening pages, usually about 1,500 words or so, and we'll review it, and then, if the editor's interested in it, they'll send you back the feedback. And they'll do kind of a sample edit on your pages, telling you, if I was editing this, this is what you would see. And then, the writer gets it, and they look at it, and it's like, is this what I was looking for? Is this person catching mistakes? So you can look at them just at a basic level. Are they catching mistakes, the grammatical and the style things? And then you can also look at it on the developmental, this person saying things that you like, or this person is totally not in your mindset. They're giving you comments that you just don't care about, and, it's not something, you're just not a match. I mean, and that it is like that. Some people click and some people don't. So you want to make sure that you are on the same wavelength when you're working with someone. So at that point, we usually ask, when we think we're going to be working with someone, we ask about the person. We ask if it's not someone we meet with specifically here in LA or wherever, San Francisco, then we kind of ask a little bit to find out about them, because we have a lot of people we never meet. We want to know, what their goals are, what they're looking for, what their areas of expertise. Someone's writing a crime novel, and they're an ex-cop. That's good information for me to know, But, if you're writing something and you're totally out of your area of knowledge, I also need to know that, so I know I'm really paying attention when you're writing about cooking. You've never been a professional chef, but you're putting all this information in there about that, then I need to be extra careful in those areas, because I know you're kind of just winging it.
All right, got it. Okay. Okay, so you've picked your editor, then what happens?
Well, the next step is you pick your editor, like you said, and you usually request the pricing. The pricing kind of comes somewhere in there. Sometimes the pricing is a make it or break it thing for the person. You need to go with what you can budget. Most people have some kind of budget for the whole process. That includes the people that do the illustrators, the book covers, that type of thing. So editing falls within your budget. So we'll give you, so if your opening pages are representative of what your book is, so you have a 50,000-word book, it's all kind of the same quality as what you sent us. Sometimes we'll look at the entire manuscript, then we can price it. We'll say, okay, it took us, 45 minutes to do 1,500 words. We'll multiply it out. And that's basically how editing is charged. There's, a rate for, we're part of the Editorial Freelance Association, and I think that's on the next slide. I'm trying to think what slide you're on. But they have a chart out there of, the guidelines. So copy editing, there's heavy copy editing, there's light copy editing, there's developmental editing. Yeah, that's on, there we are. Okay. So there's an hourly rate. So we tell you, we think it's going to take us, 40 hours at copy editing at $30 an hour. So we're looking at in terms of price. So if that's agreeable to you, then we send you a typed up agreement saying we're going to do these services. This is the price, and we'll give you a set price up front. We tell you it's going to be X number of dollars, and then we go from there. And then we start the edit. Once we get half of the money up front and your final file and the signed agreement by both parties, then the edit begins. And we always give you the turnaround time so that you know to expect, 30 working days or however much it is. So everything is contained in the agreement.
Okay, got it. And then I notice here, each edit is a separate project. So if I want to start with a developmental edit, and maybe that's not a 40-hour deal, maybe that's a 10-hour deal or a 20-hour deal, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's more, maybe it's 60 hours, and then I want to go back and do a copy edit afterwards, that's going to be another contract or another element of the contract.
Yes. Yeah, we had tried packaging them, some of those together for a while. It's like you can get the 3 package deal, which is developmental edit, a copy edit, and a proofread, but it was just too hard to control because people would spend a year sometimes between the first step and the second step and never get through it. So, I mean, it's easier just to do, we'll do this piece and then, we'll go from there. Some people really brush through things. Other people take their time, and life happens. You get off on another track and you have a day job and you may not get around to it for another 6 months.
Right.
So it's easier pricing it per piece.
Okay, got it. So there are things you can do, there are things you can't do for your project.
That's right. And that's kind of the red flags you should look at when you're looking at different editors. I mean, no one can guarantee that you're going to get picked up by an agent or that you'll get traditionally published.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you can self-publish your stuff, but no one can guarantee that you'll have the next bestseller and that you'll make $1 million. So be careful of people that are guaranteeing that kind of stuff for you, because no one can really do that. But what we can do is we can make sure that your manuscript is free of errors, the grammar, the style, with the most current reference guides. We can help you overall. A lot of people are writing series. Books are very popular. It's like if we know that you're writing book 1 of a 3-book series, we can work with you, to project. So in this book, we want you to set up what's happening in the next book. If you're telling me that a character is going to die in the next book, so in this first book, I need to kind of know that, because we're going to leave some clues. You may not kill her off, but at least we've got some clues in here. So an editor can kind of do the big picture thing. We do both the near and the far. We do the word by word by word, checking the periods and commas, and then we do the big view. And we can help you see how it fits in the market. Like, is it the right length for your genre? Is it, what is hot in the marketplace right now, and help you out in that aspect as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine that the next wave of end of the world books will be about a pandemic gone out of control.
We're seeing prison books right now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
3 prison memoirs this month because of Orange is the New Black, I think. Everyone wants to write their prison story. And, you see that. We were doing Hunger Games for a while. And I have the next Hunger Games, and we saw one after another.
Yeah.
YA has been popular for a really long time.
Yep. Okay, what can an editor do beyond editing? So other than just your manuscript, what else?
Oh, and again, it depends on which service we use. We kind of are a soup to nuts kind of thing. We do a little bit of everything. If you don't want any input on your writing, your voice is your voice. You don't want to touch. You want to do whatever. That's fine. Other people say, help me. I'm bad at this, that, or the other. I don't write dialogue. I can't write a sex scene. Just write this for me. So we can help you write things here and there.
All right.
I shouldn't have said that. And we can also look at your cover image. We can look at, these pieces are very important when you go to sell it, like what you have up on Amazon. What is your cover? What is the back of your book say? What is your online book description? What is your online author bio? We'll look at those pieces for you. We can help write them. We can, like I said, we're all writers, so
right.
Some editors are not writers. We can all help you write things if that's what you want. If you don't want anyone writing anything for you, well, then we'll look at it and make sure it's clean. We can help you find appropriate publishers for your voice and your genre. We can tell you, marketing ideas once you start getting closer. Everyone, when I start working with them, I tell them, you have to have an author platform. Get your author website out there now. Even if you don't think you're going to have this book finished for a year, get it up. Get out there, get a Twitter account, get a Goodreads account, start getting out there in social media. It's important. It's one of those things even for traditional publication. And if you work with a professional editor, once you start sending out the query letters, we can help you with that. And I think it helps. I can't guarantee it, of course, but I think it helps if you do say, this book has been professionally edited in your query letter, because that shows that you're more committed, you're serious, you spend money on your work. And, maybe it'll get you one more step into, someone actually opening up your manuscript and looking at it, getting past the query letter and past the email.
Yep.
I know we're running low on time, so let's see where we at.
How can a writer research an editor and their proposed pricing?
So this is kind of, you can look at this later if, people that want the slides. There's a couple different sites I've listed on here. Most freelancers belong to the Editorial Freelancers Association. The literary marketplace is like the source for industry professionals. You can find everything in there. It's like a phone book, literally. It's huge. And it's a great source because you can't pay for listings, so you have to have positive written reviews from clients to continue your listing in there.
On EFA? I didn't know that.
No, on the EFA, on the literary marketplace.
Oh, yep, got it.
The EFA, you join. Yeah, it's like you join and you list, so that's an organization you belong to. But literary marketplace is... And that's a big investment if you buy a literary marketplace every year for a writer. It's about $400. You can either buy the book, and it's usually 2 books, or you can join online. But libraries usually have it. That's one of the reference guides you can go to the library and find. There's a nonprofit organization that some people love and some people hate. It's got a lot of stuff out there. You're going to have to wade through it. That predators and editors, in the end, it's spelled like that. Predators is misspelled.
Yeah.
And like I said, I use CreateSpace. I throw it out there. Look at CreateSpace. You can do the math immediately on there if you want to see what it would cost to do kind of an anonymous edit with an editor there.
Okay.
They give you the math. So
Fun activity. Here we go.
Yeah, so
NaNoWriMo's coming up.
Yes. Yeah. If people haven't done this, I encourage it. I think it's a great thing to do. It's fun. It gets you out of your comfort zone, maybe. So National Novel Writing Month is November. It's NaNoWriMo, and some people don't like that, the way it sounds, but that's the way it is. So it was started back in '99 by Chris Beatty in the San Francisco Bay Area. They undertook the task of writing a 50,000-word book in 1 month, and back then it was July. At some point they changed it to November for some reason. But basically they wanted to see if it could be done. It's broken down to 1,667 words a day, and it pushes you. You know, it says, you know, do it, write it every day, and you'll, by the end of the month, you'll have a novel. I mean, a 50,000-word novel is still a short novel, but at least you'll have something. It's a fun activity, and it's a big chance to be social in Los Angeles and San Francisco and all the areas. It's actually international now. So last year, 400,000 people joined, and there's a lot of email communication going around. Here in LA, we have kickoff parties with swag bags. You can get together for write-ins where you like just sit and write with other people. So it's an interesting thing for people to think about doing if you want to just get out there and get out of a writing rut or do something. Just cram out some more pages, just meet some other writers. It's something I recommend.
We love NaNoWriMo. All right.
Have you done it?
No, I'm going to do it this year, though. I promise. I'm going to do it this year.
Oh,
okay,
good.
so
See, once you put that out there, it's like saying you're going on a diet or something, and you have to commit to it.
I wrote a terrible blog post a year and a half with the same promise. Okay, so I'm going to throw up one last little question for everybody. So we've talked with you. Last week we talked with a different editor. I'm just curious if you give me some feedback out there, audience. You know, what's your biggest concern? And maybe there's something that we haven't covered, which I'd love to know what it is. Maybe you throw a question up for me, but take a minute, please, and vote, and let me know, you know, after having spent a lot of time talking about editing, what's your chief concern? All right, might have some folks almost there. Got about half of the folks who voted. That's good. A few more, and then we'll share the results. Anybody else want to vote? Come on. I know you're still there. All right. Let's close and share the results. So it looks like the biggest concern is cost. So let's just close this out, Christine, with
Sure.
Okay, I have to convince the boss, my partner in life, how much that we can invest in editing this first book I'm going to bring to market, and she's going to want to know, have I done everything I can to minimize that cost? Have I done everything that's reasonable? So, you know, I wrote it, I rewrote it, I had my critique friends read it, I read it backwards, I read it out loud, I read it on the treadmill, I ran some software programs through it to see what they could tell me. What else can I do?
That's one we haven't brought up. That's a good one we haven't brought up. I don't list it there. There's some about $200 editing software that you can buy, and if you're interested in investing a couple hours and playing with it, it's actually a good tool for people to use if you write a lot.
Which one do you recommend?
Oh, I don't even know what they're called. I don't use editing software, but I know there are some out there. I think if you just type in editing software, I mean, they all have pretty generic names like Editor or something like that.
Yeah.
And it depends on if you're a Mac or a PC kind of user, but it does help. And you can change your settings on Word to do a little bit more. So.
And that might help me lower the cost, because when I send you my first 1,500 words, you're going to find that my writing is in better than average shape, and you'll give me a lower hours estimate to do my 100,000 words. Is that the idea?
Yes, right. The quicker we can get through it, hours are money, right?
Okay.
The less hours it takes someone, the less cost it will be for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So just so everybody knows, that we don't get any referral or affiliate for this, but we've had very good success recommending to authors that they use a piece of software called, as you said, Editor. And Editor is by Serenity Software. They actually have a 10-day free trial. They have a plugin for Microsoft Word. My 17-year-old hates it. My 14-year-old loves it. And I find it tolerable as a piece of software.
It's around $200 or so? Is that
no, it's actually like $70, I think.
Oh, really?
And if you give them, when you buy it, now we're really getting out there in the detail weeds, but if you buy it and you type in, when you're checking out through PayPal in the comments, that Wave Cloud sent you, if they're still offering it, they'll apply a discount and retroactively refund a little money. So we love them because they've got the free trial, 10 days. I mean, anyone could probably, if they had 10 days off, could go and put their work through it chapter by chapter and get some editing out of it and not pay a dime.
Yeah,
but we think it's good software. It's worth checking out. Good. Okay, I'll hide that. I'll throw your hide that. I'll throw your email address back up here. So, Christine, are you going to send this slide deck off to everyone, and do you have anything else you want to send or share or talk about before we close up?
Yeah, no, since, I mean, obviously the cost is a big deal for a lot of people, I would like to offer a discount to people listening in here on this webinar. So I'll offer people $100 off their editing service. Just reference this webinar. So just, drop me an email if you're ready to go that direction, and I'll make it valid through the end of this year, so through the end of December 31st of 2014. So that's $100. It'll get you a little bit closer, but yeah, I mean, editing can be expensive, and it depends on how much work you need and how much time is invested.
That's very generous.
Definitely. Sure. Any other questions out there? Or
I don't see any other ones. Ann asks, when are we going to stop calling ourselves WaveCloud and call ourselves BookFuel officially? And it's a good question, Ann. Really, BookFuel is the service, although it has its own URL. I am trying to craft a strategy to migrate us off of WaveCloud, and we're getting close, but we're getting there. Reginald's got one last question. It says, with edits, is it better to edit a body of work, in other words, 2 books in the series, versus 1 book at a time, if available? So in other words, let's say Reginald's got both books written. Should he throw them both in the hopper in one contract with you, or is it better off to do one, maybe learn something, fix it on his own in book 2, and then do the other one? I don't know. What do you think?
The way I've done those, I think every editor is probably different. I would read both of them and probably edit the first one. Mm-hmm. So I would give you a reading charge for the second one, which would be just however long it takes me to read it, which is not very long. It'll be a minimal charge. So I would see where you're going and read both of them, edit the first one for you, and then you could take it from there. And yeah, otherwise, editing both of them would be more of a cost if you're looking to save money.
Yep. Excellent advice. Okay, great. Christine, thank you again so much for spending your hour today with us. We really appreciate it. I've got some nice comments from the people who were on they said they enjoyed the seminar. That was very good. And again, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for having me. And keep writing, everyone. That's the best thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Sorry, go ahead, Christine.
That's it. I was going to say goodbye.
Fantastic. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Have a marvelous rest of the day.